How's it going? Welcome to another episode of Uber Success. In this video, I'm going to be talking about our best friend and worst enemy when you're picking up people and driving people around with Uber, and that is the GPS. For most of you, if you don't already know it, and if you're already a driver for Uber, you can already attest that although the GPS, which is near and dear, helps us get to where we need to go, it reroutes when you're lost, it reroutes when you get stuck in traffic, helps you out in times of need. Because if you're like me and you don't know anything about the streets, let alone the names, and like you just would be lost without it, the GPS is there to help you and to guide you to get you where you need to go. But there is a dark side, and that is it freaking sucks. It really does. Like, where do I even start? Where do I even begin? One of the issues that you have to worry about when you're driving for Uber is when you're picking somebody up. If you're picking somebody up and the pin says to be at 348 West Brooklyn Street, and you go to 348 West Brooklyn Street and nobody's there, thinking that someone's gonna show up, and you call them and they call you and you're like, hey, I'm outside, and they're like, no, I'm outside, and you argue with them for 5 minutes talking about who's outside, you know somebody messed up. And it probably is not you. It's not your fault. It's the GPS. You know why? Because for some reason, I don't know how it works with the satellites and things, but things sometimes don't triangulate correctly, and the address that people put in might actually be a whole different location. This could be because the person put the address in wrong. This could just be just the way the GPS figures the roads and streets. But regardless, it's annoying, and it's something that you should be aware of, because if you see that somebody's pickup address is like going down a back alley, it's most likely not where that person is, right? They're probably like in front of the building, or it might be the side of the building, but the GPS doesn't know that, especially if the person is just like, use my location. Lord help you there, because if that's the case, you know, you could end up 3 blocks away from the person and just not even know. So how do you get over the situation, right? What I do is, if you're going into a location that's especially busy and you're not gonna have time to just sit there in the middle of traffic and try and figure it out, call the person like a minute before you show up. So if the GPS says you got 1 minute to arrive, call the person up, be like, hey, introduce yourself. My name is so-and-so. This is your Uber driver. I want to just clarify exactly where your location is. Mention the location that the GPS says, and then ask them, is that where they're staying at? What is around them that could be used as a landmark? Are they next to a store? Are they on a corner? Corners are sometimes the best way to find people. Just say, hey, meet me in the corner of like Smith and 5th, if they're like right in that area, because it's going to save you a whole lot of headache when the GPS is just like, well, I really don't care, and it's you that's getting honked at by 100 drivers behind you because you don't know where the hell you're going. Like, if your GPS says that your rider is in the middle of a highway, it's most likely not the case. You know, they're probably like the house next to the highway, so that's why it's good to call and just make sure and double check before you end up stopping in the middle of 5-lane highway trying to figure out what you're doing. Another thing you got to be cautious about with the GPS while you're driving, especially while you're driving, is when it starts to actually reroute. This could be sometimes when you might get a new rider, like if you're doing Uber Pool and someone just got added on, or if you accidentally made a wrong turn. Just be aware that it's going to redirect you, which is awesome. That's a great part about it. The only problem is when, you know, because sometimes it doesn't do it like exactly when you need it. It does it like when you needed it 5 feet that way and you already missed the turn, and now you got to go around the block again, and that's going to take like 10 minutes, and the person is already yelling at you because they have to catch a bus in 8 and they're mad that you missed the turn. So just be aware of that. One thing you can do is that before you even hit an intersection, and if your GPS is about to redirect, or if it's lagging, that's another issue. If it's lagging and it's just doesn't know what it's doing, stop before you actually cross the intersection, because it's so much easier to fix yourself when you are before the intersection than afterwards. If you already passed the intersection and then it's like, dude, you should have taken a left over there, then you have to go all the way back around, you know? Most of the time, it's better to just stop right before the intersection if you can, if it's safe to. If traffic is going and you can't, you're just gonna have to, you know, deal with it. But if you can, stop before the intersection so that when the GPS gets its mind right and figures out what it's doing, then you are in the perfect and prime position to make a good move and not end up wasting time or gas or getting somebody upset. Lastly, just because the GPS is great and can help you out, especially if you don't know the area, the GPS, I realize, doesn't know what it's doing itself. It really doesn't. And a lot of times it's gonna take you around a whole nother area, and it's gonna take you the longest route possible before it actually get to your destination, right? And you might get this because passengers might be like, why did you make this left instead of that right? Why are you taking that route? Why are you deciding to go this way? You know, and that's because the GPS doesn't know what it's doing. It's just following what it thinks it's best, which is not really the best for most of the time. So to avoid this, when the passenger gets into the car, just let them know, hey, if you have any better directions or better suggestions on what I should do and what roads I should take, let me know. Because that way, if they know the area better and they know, they say they know a shortcut, it's so much easier. They can just tell you where to go and you can just follow that and not have to deal with the GPS just taking you a whole nother route that's completely unnecessary. So those are my tips for dealing with the GPS. If you got value from this video, let me know. Like this and also leave a comment down in the section below. Let me know what your thoughts are about dealing with the GPS when you're driving for ride shares. Also subscribe to my page and check out my other Uber success videos teaching you all about how to be successful with Uber. GPSs, man, can't live with them, can't live without them, but most of the time it's a symbiotic relationship. Other than that, it freaking sucks.